Do you want to know how good is a candy barbarian in number 10? Then I'll tell you. Hello and welcome to another JMP video. I'm your host JonNario, and today it's going to be the candy barbarian in number 10. So I will be telling you one little thing before I start this video. We'll be leaving in like 4 or 5 days. I'll say 4 days. So yeah, I will say that I grossly underestimated the amount of work that it actually takes to do all of these kinds of videos. So I apologize that I haven't made all of the videos for the over 10 series. I thought that, yeah, you know what, that's going to be realistic. Me doing 10 plus video with full editing, and not only that, still preparing myself for the flight to just move on from Puerto Rico. That was completely unrealistic. I did manage to do at least 6 videos, which is more than enough. It's 1.5 month worth of content, so at least you guys have pretty decent content for for a while. I should be able to at least do some stream by the time I actually get there. If I don't, then I apologize, but I should at least done some streams here and there whenever I just get there. So it is what it is. Anyways, I don't know about the future. I don't know what is going to come for me, so that's going to be everything up in the air. Either way, this is going to be perhaps the last episode that you're going to see of the weekly content until I get myself a new PC, because like I mentioned, I grossly underestimated the amount of work that it actually takes to do all these types of content. Either way, I still hope that you guys enjoy all of these videos, at least posting it weekly, but as of right now, I still need to just get myself a new PC and all that good stuff, and just try to make myself new content once again. Either way, that's going to be pretty much everything. Now let's move on with the Candy Barbarian video. Again, if you want more information, YouTube community tab, Discord server, and all that good stuff. Alright, let's get started. Candy Barbarian, one of the characters that actually just takes a crown of being an underestimated class, of being a good DPS type class, but a lot of people use it for tanking because it's a character that just works better for in-game content tanking. It could be the case because the Candy Barbarian has some of the best tanking abilities out there because of vanilla Swirl healing, giving you a HP lifesteal, and not only that, the ultimate ability giving you a HP lifesteal. Also, the character on itself can pull enemies with the class gem ability. Like, I get it, it has really good utility tools to be as a good tank for both support, pulling all enemies, giving allies buff, and not only that, giving yourself insane survivability as a tank. Either way, that's going to be pretty much everything regarding the Candy Barbarian. But the Candy Barbarian as a DPS type character, as a damage type character, is a good dungeon grinding character. A lot of things that you're going to hear me say in this video is going to be solid. This character is solid. It has solid damage, solid crowd control, pretty good utility, survivability, momentum. Like, all of them are going to be at least average to above average in pretty much all the categories, except DPS, which is a little bit on the below average. But I will be mentioning that the Candy Barbarian is still really good when it comes to dungeon grinding, because it has everything that you want a character for dungeon grinding. Either way, that's going to be pretty much everything. Here are my stats. I will be showcasing 2 types of stats. The left side that you're going to see is going to be my Candy Barbarian with my tank stats, and on the right side you're going to see my Candy Barbarian with my DPS stat. The tank stat is the one that I will be using for the most part outside of this video, and the one that I have on this video are going to be the one on the right. My gear consists of attack speed, movement speed, all pieces of gear. I do have energy regeneration ring. Attack speed is just really good for this character alone because this character uses a lot of basic attack. Movement speed is just the best stat in the game for over 10, and I use movement speed on every single character, no matter the character that I'm using. Energy regeneration ring, because this character's vanilla Swirl costs a lot of energy and you're going to spam it a whole lot. Movement speed banner, movement speed buff ally, you know, the standard stuff that I always rock. Most of the character, I have the purple of food just because I want to throw as much ultimate ability as possible, which does work perfectly with this character. And yeah, I just have the standard equipment that I've been rocking for most of my character ever since like the night video or something like that. Like, I use this standard equipment because it just works perfectly for any type of character. Damage emblem, trailblazing emblem, movement speed equipment, attack speed or critical damage depending on what you look at it, and also use energy regeneration if you need it. Night Sock class because of flash, and yada yada yada. You pretty much all know all that stuff. My gens consist of this gens that you're seeing right now on screen. My recommendation is going to be the standard equipment on this character, on any character for over 10, which is Vampire, Backwitch, Paradise, and Class Gem. Class Gem is not necessary, which I'm not using it in this video, but Class Gem you can use it if you want. It's beneficial, so why not get it? And the other Empower Gem ability is up to you. This character doesn't necessarily need any other Empower Gem ability, so this one just just works perfectly for this character. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be everything regarding my stat, gear, gems, all that good stuff. Now moving on into my first opinion on the Candy Barbarian. Like I just mentioned in the beginning of the video, this character is solid all around. It's not going to be the best character in the entire game. It's not going to be the worst character in the entire game. It's just a solid all around character. It's going to sit right down in the middle, like around the same range as the Shadow Hunter in terms of ranking, just because this character does have really good damage. The damage multiplier is pretty high. Well, it's not the highest, but since it does have a plus 30% bonus physical damage by default, the highest, the multiplier is higher than normal. Not only that, the crowd control is really decent, good survivability, good in every single category possible. So good momentum as well. Like, you know what it is. Like, this character is just solid all around. That's pretty much all I gotta say. The way that you're going to see this character truly shine is almost the same as the Knight. This and the Knight are pretty much identical classes, because both classes are starter classes that use melee. They are pretty much almost equal in terms of what they do. Like, the Candy Barbarian is slightly faster, but it does less damage. Obviously the Knight is slower, but does more damage. The Candy Barbarian has better ultimate ability, which is more of an offensive type. The Knight is more of a defensive type character because of the ultimate ability and all that good stuff. Either way, like, both of the characters are pretty similar, so you're going to hear me compare this character a lot to the Knight. So if you're one of those persons that really like the Knight, try the Candy Barbarian, because both of them are very similar in their playstyle. Either way, now let's start talking about all of the abilities, starting off with the basic attack. The basic attack on the Candy Barbarian does a 1.85 times damage multiplier, which is above average, and it does have an attacks per second of 1.5625 attacks per second at base, or 1.56 if you want to call it like that. In terms of damage multiplier and in terms of everything, is going to be average all around, except the damage, which is slightly above average. The attacks per second is average. The range is 4, which is average for close range character. And not only that, it attacks in pretty much like an arc sort of way, in diagonal arc in front of the Candy Barbarian, so it is pretty good crowd control. So the basic attack is just solid. It's not the best, it's not the worst. Comparable to the Knight, it's just weaker all around, except that it has one more block range, but that's literally it. The Knight has better crowd control, more damage, and it's faster. But even the way that this basic attack is still solid, it can do pretty good damage versus most of the mobs. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this character has a bonus 30% physical damage by default. Even though it does have a 1.85 times damage multiplier, the damage multiplier is going to feel more like a 2.25 or something along those lines, comparable to the regular character. Either way, that's going to be pretty much how it is. Right? The Candy Barbarian, pretty solid character in terms of his basic attack. Now let's start talking about the passive ability, because the passive ability is very important to the Candy Barbarian, and if you can use it effectively, that means that you can use the Candy Barbarian to his fullest potential. Gumdrop. Gumdrop is the Candy Barbarian's passive ability, and what it does is, when you get hit, you have a chance of actually spawning a Gumdrop, which increases your attack speed and movement speed. The attack speed that you do get is a plus 100, and the movement speed that you get is a plus 20. This is literally a slightly superior version of the Gunslinger's ultimate ability, Run and Gun, without the class gem, and literally it's just better all around. And this is coming from a passive ability that I believe it lasts for 8 seconds and doesn't have a cooldown. And if you get another Gumdrop, you're going to get the passive refill, like the timer refresh. I think it's 5 seconds, I don't remember. But yeah, that's pretty much everything regarding the Gumdrop. 100 plus attack speed, it means that you will be taking a 1.56 more attacks per second if you do have the passive ability active, and less than 200% attack speed by default. So the character on its own is going to attack pretty fast with the passive ability, and you can get it rather quickly, because you can get it from either getting hit from enemies, which is around a 20 to 25% chance of getting it. And not only that, you actually can get it from Sugar Crash, which I'll get more of that once I start talking about Sugar Crash. And yeah, that's going to be pretty much everything regarding this passive ability. This passive ability is very good. It's very solid all around. Like, you just give this passive ability to pretty much any character will do. And this is going to be the movement speed buff that the Candy Barbarian has, which is a plus 20. Again, like I just mentioned before, plus 50 movement speed is exactly the same as Vampire Vanquisher and Trailblazing Emblem, just in case you're wondering. Either way, that's going to be everything regarding Gumdrop. Now let's start talking about Vanilla Swirl. Vanilla Swirl, your main spammable ability with the Candy Barbarian. The Candy Barbarian, what it does is, when you press the ability, you're going to spin around, hitting all enemies around you, and per enemy hit, you're going to spawn a healing candy, healing 10% of your health. This is HP lifesteal, this is not damage lifesteal. Damage lifesteal is the Revenant's passive ability, which is based on how much damage you do. HP lifesteal is based around how much HP you have. So tank Candy Barbarian can just hit with this ability and just hit 10% per enemy. It's not based on how much damage you do, which is just insane, especially if you have around 30 mil HP. It means each and every single candy will heal you 3 mil HP, which is a lot of HP, and that's why this character has insane survivability as a tank. So the vanilla Swirl does a 6.5 times damage multiplier, and it has a block radius of around 4 range. It hits all enemies around you, and what it does is actually knocks enemies back for around 1.5 block. It has a really short animation time and no cooldown. So the ability on paper is just really good, but the only thing is that it costs 60 energy per cast, which is a big oof. I wish that if they just reward this character, this needs to either get the knockback removed and also get the energy cost reduced to around 20 to 25, I will say, because this ability has some really good potential, but the energy cost is too high. It means that you will be throwing at maximum 2 to 3 depending on how much energy you have, but for the most part you're going to throw only 2 of them. So yeah, the Candy Barbarian Vanilla Swirl has a really good ability, but that alone is just no. And compare that with the healing from the candy, which does not have a cooldown. It's based on each enemy hit. So if you hit, like, let's just say 3 enemies, you're going to heal 3 times or 30% of your HP. If you hit 10 enemies, that's 100%, and yada yada yada. And yeah, the ability on its own is just really good. The only thing is that it costs a little bit too much energy and the knockback is a little bit annoying. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much everything regarding the Vanilla Swirl. Now let's move on into Sugar Crash. Sugar Crash without the class gem ability is going to be your leap type ability. When you press the ability, you're going to leap forward, hitting all enemies around you in a 6x6 block radius. And per enemy hit, you're going to create a gumdrop, which is a passive ability, and the gumdrop does not have a cooldown and is 100% of the chance. Now, the range that you leap on the enemy is around 6 blocks, but you can manipulate it by holding back or holding forward or jumping around. So the range can be manipulated by just doing a bunch of other stuff. Now, the damage multiplier is going to be a 4.5 times damage multiplier. The range, like I mentioned, is 6 block, and the AoE once you land is a 6x6. So it has really good crowd control. Per enemy hit, you're going to get 1 gumdrop. It's not going to stack on all of them, it's just going to refresh the timer for all of the gumdrop. It's going to give you the passive ability, the 100 attack speed and the plus 20 movement speed, guaranteed just by hitting enemy with the Sugar Crash. This does work exactly the same with the class gem ability, which I'll get more into that in a little bit. But the Sugar Crash, it is going to be that type of ability that you're just going to use once you get into a dungeon, hitting all enemies around you, and just use a Vanilla Swirl or ultimate ability, and you're going to get the gumdrop, which will give you a 20 movement speed, which allow you to move from dungeon to dungeon much quickly. Either way, this ability is just pretty good. It costs 35 energy, and I would probably say that this ability is pretty decent, but it has some problems. The problem that I will say is, since you're technically just jumping around, it's not like a dash ability like the Knight or the Stasis Blade from the Neon Ninja. It is like a leap ability. This ability can cause lag like crazy, especially if you spam it a whole lot. You will be lagging quite a lot because for the most part, you're going to be stuck mid animation just jumping around. You are going to have a problem with this ability if you do spam it. So use it sparingly, don't spam it like crazy. Just use it from time to time, just move around a little bit quickly and jump around a little bit here and there just to get a little bit extra more blocks distance. But the thing is that this will cost you quite a lot of lag. So that's probably the reason, even though it is superior for dungeon grinding, that the class gem ability, it's just that it's too laggy to even work properly, that for the most part people would recommend you to have the class gem ability. So yeah, the Sugar Crash is a pretty good ability on its own, and he can one shot up to, I believe, world bosses, so it is a pretty good ability, but for the most part you're not going to use it quite a lot. Now let's move on into Scoop and Gloop, which is just going to be the class gem ability. You're not going to see it in the background footage because I do not have the class gem ability, but what it does is when you press Sugar Crash, instead of leaping 6 blocks forward, you're going to leap 4 blocks upwards. So, and pretty much all of the other properties are going to be exactly the same. 6x6 block radius, 4.5 times damage, 35 energy cost, yada yada yada, the gumdrop per enemy hit. You're going to get all of that with the class gem ability. However, if you hold down the ability, you're going to vacuum enemies within 3 to 4 blocks towards you. Similar to the ultimate ability from the Revenant, it's going to be exactly the same. You're going to pull all enemies around you. Once you just let go of the ability, you are going to just jump around, and once you hit all enemies, you're going to apply a brief snare, which is the same as the Neon Ninja Stasis Blade, which is just a stun that doesn't allow the enemy to move but they can attack. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is. The snare, I believe it only lasts for like a second or something like that. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is. That's the only difference between this and the Sugar Crash, is that you are able to pull all enemies within a 3 or 4 blocks. You are going to jump upwards instead of going forward, and you're going to apply a brief snare once you hit all enemies. And aside from that, it's just going to be exactly the same as Sugar Crash. 4.5 times damage multiplier, 6x6 block radius, 35 energy cost, and gun drop on enemy hit. That's pretty much what it is. And yeah, that's literally everything regarding the class here. It's a good ability for tanking, and you're not going to use it a whole lot for dungeon grinding unless you're using this ability for Cursed Skull and you're just pulling all enemies, letting it go and just hitting all enemies, which is pretty effective if you're not doing enough damage with the vanilla Swirl that you don't want enemy to get knocked back. But either way, it's just a really good ability. In Geo Topside, it doesn't even matter because all enemies in Geo Topside in Cursed Skulls are close range enemies, so that shouldn't be a lot of problems with vanilla Swirlwind. So in Geo Topside, this ability is kind of meh. There's no range enemies in Cursed Skulls, just to let you know out there. Just a little fun fact right there. But yeah, that's pretty much everything regarding the class gem ability. Now let's move on into Ice Cream Cone, or the ultimate ability. The Ice Cream Cone, what it does is when you press the ability, you're going to drop an ice cream cone similar to the Ice Age Ice Crash, and it's going to hit all enemies around it, dealing a ton of damage, creating gun drops, and healing all enemies around you. Now, this ability is extremely powerful. This at one time called one of the best offensive type abilities in the entire game. Aside from like the reason being, it's just that this ability is just a pure offensive juggernaut of an ability. It gives you healing, it does a lot of damage, it gives you gun drop for movement speed, it does everything. Like, it have ridiculous crowd control. Like, this ability on its own is ridiculously powerful, but it's an ultimate ability with a 40-second cooldown, so you can give it you can give or take of being like a really strong offensive type ability or a utility type ability, who knows. But this ability does a 15 times damage multiplier, very high. It is ridiculously high. 15 times damage is among the highest multiplier in the entire game. It has a 7x7 on a AoE. It has around a 1 to 3 block range for you holding it down. So you can only throw it down like 3 blocks at maximum distance, but the AoE is going to be a 7x7. It's going to create gun drop for all enemies, all nearby enemies in a 30 block radius, and it's going to give them the attack speed boost and the healing, but the healing that they're going to get is a 50% healing or half their health, and you're going to spawn 8 healing candies for yourself. So you're going to heal 80% of your HP, and you're going to spawn a gun drop for yourself as a candy barbarian. And yeah, that's pretty much everything on this ability. This ability is just solid. It is an instant cast ability technically, and it has a 40-second cooldown with a 40 energy cost. But a 15 times damage multiplier ability, this ability is one of the first abilities that can one-shot literally everything around it. It will give you pretty much full health. It's 80% but full health for the most part, and it will give you a gun drop, giving you attack speed and movement speed increase if you don't kill the enemy one shot. If you don't kill the enemy one shot, either you didn't crit or your stats are rather low. Either way, this ability is just solid. This is the definition of a solid ability. Damage is high, like everything is just good. Gives you utility, gives you movement speed, attack speed, healing, crowd control is ridiculous, like everything. It's instant cast. You can throw it down alongside vanilla Swirlwind, so you can throw it down, use one vanilla Swirlwind for burst damage. Like, really good, very easy to use, very strong. Recommend you to use this on bosses for the most part instead of just using it every single time. But if you're a candy barbarian, use this on bosses to guarantee yourself one shot if you cannot one shot with vanilla Swirlwind. So yeah, this ability, very good. I don't need to say a lot of things regarding this ability because you already know the stats. The stats are just high, really good all around. And yeah, that's going to be pretty much everything regarding the Candy Barbarian. Now to giving you my end opinions of the character. The character on its own is a very solid character. It has damage, good crowd control, good survivability, and all around a movement speed buff. It is an all around good character. A lot of people misconcept this character of being a trash character, which is not the case, because this character is not a character that has gone reworked. And aside from that, this is a character that for the most part people use it for tanking, because this character for tanking is very solid because of vanilla Swirl giving you a 10% HP lifesteal. Now, either way, this character is solid all around. What you're going to see at its best is going to be mid to late game. Similar to the Knight, it is almost exactly the same as the Knight. Mid to late game is where you're going to see this character truly shine, because vanilla Swirl is going to dish out pretty hefty damage. You're going to have really good crowd control, survivability is already good, momentum is already pretty decent. Like, vanilla Swirl has a really short animation time. You're going to one shot all enemies. It's going to be pretty much the same momentum as Rev. So aside from all of that, it's literally a solid character. I don't need to say anything bad about this character. It's just solid. It's just good all around. And if you haven't used the Candy Barbarian, use it, please. It is a really solid character for dungeon grinding. If you think that the Candy Barbarian is trash, some people might say that the character is trash. Do not listen to them. The character can be effective. Every single character can be effective in Uber 10. So be on the lookout on that one. So use the Candy Barbarian, give it a shot, use it for DPS, and you're going to see that it's going to be pretty solid for dungeon grinding. Either way, that's going to be everything for me for today. I don't know which is going to be the next episode, because as of right now, this might be the last pre-recorded video as of right now. So be on the lookout whenever I do come back and I do make more videos regarding the Uber 10 series. So as of right now, this is going to be a farewell for me, and farewell for this series, and just hope that I get a new PC and just get myself all of the recordings and everything just set up to move around and just do everything. Anyways, so that's going to be everything for me for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for sticking around as always. Leave a like if you want to help the channel grow. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And that is all for today. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care and keep on hunting. See ya.